Armada Book 3 Chapter 2 The Exodus Part 1. 6 days into the first intergalactic festival, Olive appeared beside Andrew at the Inky movie booth. Andrew and Vicky were showing Adam the movies from the Inky galaxies adopted for small kids. They wanted Adam to walk, so they held both his hands and dragged him to let him walk. Olive started, "Andrew, there are 21,852 ships of various shapes and sizes 1.2 bly away crossing our way towards the edge of the Norset galaxies, moving at less than 3% of our normal speed." Various sizes? Olive produced a hologram of the various ship shapes and sizes. "They will be crossing 5 of our probes out in the field, and we will have better scans of these ships and their occupants within the hour. Get a hold of the team and have them meet me at the bridge in 2 hours. You can go ahead. I can deal with Adam very well from here on." Vicky said. "I still have 2 hours. Let's get some ice cream for Adam." They went to the nearest ice cream booth located at the corner of the exhibitor block. Beside the ice cream booth was a booth selling flame-fried corn. Andrew got 1 flame-fried corn and he was surprised that he can still remember the taste and how it should taste like. "It's really good, dear. Here, have some." Vicky opened her mouth and Andrew let her bite on it. "It's how I remembered it should taste like," Vicky said. "Exactly what I thought. I tried to recall how it tasted like and surprised that it tasted like how I remember it to taste like. Or we think we remember, but we're actually tasting something different," Vicky said. Andrew thought Vicky must really be his wife to think this way. Andrew pulled the mother and son, "Let's go see the alien animals around the corner there." Olive appeared more than an hour later. "Andrew, the team is in your bridge." "Right, Vicky, I have to go now." He kissed her and Adam and beamed to his ship. On the bridge was Tony, Ellie, Roger, Eric, Linda, Tonin, Sarudam and Gantley. They were looking at more than a dozen floating screens on the alien ships. "Iguis? I see you're all looking at the ships. Where's Gadden, Olive?" Andrew asked. "He's with Simultaman and the Mac Council. He's the official guide to the old man." Ellie observed, "It's like an exodus. I think they are fleeing from something or some enemy. See close formation with the largest ships in the middle." Eric added, "I think their engines are at full speed." From the scans of the bigger ships, Olive counted 48,000 small attack ships lodged inside them. "If they're fleeing from something, what?" Tonin asked. Gantley conjectured, "Maybe they lost their chasers." "I think Exodus is an apt comparison. Not because of me being Jewish, but because they are composed of various ships of various sizes and purposes. These big ships are not military. The scan shows a lot of people cramped in small individual spaces. I think they would be scanning a planet to replenish supplies pretty soon," Tony commented. Olive pointed to one of the holos. "From Tony's theory, I think they will be going to this planet here. ETA 2 days. What do they look like?" Andrew asked. Olive answered, "They look like Dugnogs but a lot taller, some almost as tall as the Inkies." "Yes, they do look like the Duggies but taller. The Duggies were vegetarians and they devour anything from roots to leaves to bark of trees, like goats," Linda observed. "I don't see anything closely resembling a plant anywhere in the ships," Roger said. "Maybe their dietary preferences have changed. I think they could still be related to the Dugnogs," Ellie conjectured. "This ship here seems to be their command center. Highly secured and militarized with people looking like uniformed soldiers," Tonin observed. "Do we just let this go or do we investigate further?" Andrew asked. "They do not seem like a threat, but if they are running from something, that may be a threat," Gantley said. "Our nearest hop ship will be 200 mly away from their path towards that planet," Olive pointed out. "I can deploy the hops nearer to that planet to get within beaming range and fill in the void by pulling 2 more hops from the other lines nearest to the void created," Tony explained. "So you can have them move now even before the alien ships reach the planets?" Linda asked. "Exactly my point," Tony said. "Good idea, Tony," Andrew said. Eric observed, "This could be a case like the Inkies and Intis. The original versions were smaller and the re-engineered versions are taller." "It could be. I would vote to investigate," Gantley said. "Me as well," Tonin agreed. "I would," Tony seconded. Andrew nodded and, "Okay, let's do this. When can we leave?" "All the ships will be ready in 2 days. If you want, I can leave within 2 hours to get forward intel and deploy our probes," Eric said. "How many ships can you take?" Andrew asked. "I can assemble 2 other ships," Eric said. "Let me go with you, I can bring 2 more ships with me," Linda added. "Sarudam, you want to come along?" Eric asked. "Sure. I'd love to. Can I bring my men, say 10,000 of them?" "Sure, divide them among the ships." "Okay, you 3 go ahead." Andrew said, and Olive announced the plan, starting with the party section of the festival. We need our people to get sober first before we even leave orbit. Andrew beamed back to Vicky. That was fast. Vicky said to Andrew. We would leave in 2 days. He did not sound excited but rather monotone. Vicky senses this. That's fine. They spent the rest of the day at the festival and beamed back home in time for dinner in Planet Los Angeles. For the next 2 days Andrew spent all his waking time with Adam and sometimes with Vicky, who is always busy talking to people even in their house. Scientists keep beaming in and out at their backyard. Vicky even had 2 large industrial coffee dispensers located there with stacks of ceramic cups. Olive started, Andrew, all ships are ready to go. Tonin has his usual 400 ships, Gantley has 400 as well, and your usual 250 ships except for Eric, Linda and Tony. We are not bringing any supply ships since all our supplies have been loaded in all the ships. Okay, let's go. After 2 days Eric beams in and greeted, Hi boss. Linda and the others beams in almost at the same time. Linda started, Sir, they are in orbit around the planet and they seem to be getting water and some flora and fauna from the planet. Any action plan that you can recommend? Andrew asked. Eric explained, First off, we already have a language translator created. Then we had probes dispatched down to the planet, that's why we can see what they're doing. We also have probes inside the major military ships and one of the largest civilian ships. Tony's Hops is within beaming range of the planet below. Any other inhabitants on the planet below? Andrew asked. Linda answered, There is a large Marinti city to the north of this continent with some scattered villages. There are 2 other cities in another continent. All modern and industrialized but no spaceships. They do have low-terrain airships like our planes but runs on steam. We have not made contact yet, awaiting your order. Eric added, We have gathered some intel on the city below. The leader is a Marinti king called Milanados, 63.5 million population. The city is really 11 villages with the largest village to the north as the city capital part. They do not have an army since there are no other species they can find on the planet. They are progressive and do not seem to have any social problems like food shortage or sickness. We have hacked into one of the civilian ships and into 1 medium and 1 large-sized military vessel. The Norsets are absorbing the information now. They will be done in a few hours. We also got some tissue samples from the aliens. I wanted to compare them to the Dougies if indeed they are related. I will have the original Dougie tissue information from the Talonauts tomorrow. Linda said. Andrew asked, What if we borrow one of those airships and use it to go to the alien species, talk to them, maybe welcome them to the planet? Let's pretend to be the locals. Eric agreed, We can beam one of those into the cargo bay and beam it near the aliens so they can find it supposedly crashed. Beaming is more logical because flying it means we should be coming from someplace near. But the aliens are too far from the city, otherwise the alien ships would have been able to scan the plane coming in. Tonin said, and Andrew nodded. Olive, from their past activities, where can we crash the plane so they can find us without setting up too many questions? Andrew asked. There's a mountain ridge here, and if your plane crashed behind it, they would not be able to scan it, and then you can just walk around to the ridge here and you can see them. I can dig a hole enough for all of you to let them think you came from a cave beside the ridge, that's why they did not see you earlier. Good. So who wants to go? Andrew asked. I want to go. Gantley said. I'll play back up from space. Tonin said. I'll go. Ellie said, and Andrew looked at Eric and Roger. Sure boss, I'll go, Eric said. Roger, you know me boss. Sarudam, you want to go? Sure. I'll go, it's my first time. Linda said. Olive, get us a ship. Eric, I think you should investigate the planet further, get intel on the 2 other cities. Roger, Linda, Ellie, Gantley and Sarudam will beam down to the cave and walk out after a while. We'll appear as Marintai so they would think we're local. We'll try to talk to them and see what they're up to. Andrew whispered. Andrew, why are you whispering? Olive asked. Boss, you don't have to whisper. Roger said. The ship is in the cargo bay. It can carry 50 people and it's a running ship, no damage. Your Marinti language translators and chameleon devices are on the table. Olive said. Sarudam, I suggest you wear a chameleon device as well to hide your weapons and uniform. All the others were heavily armed as well and the device hides these. We will all appear as civilian Marintais. Roger said. Good idea. He got one of the devices. Ellie instructed him how to use it. Andrew stood, Okay, let's go. Olive, beam us into the cave. It was noon when they were beamed into the cave and the airship beamed beside the entrance. Andrew led the group out of the cave, telling them to put some of the cave dirt on them. They walked and climbed to the top of the ridge. At the top of the ridge, they crawled closer to the edge where they got a view of the whole operation. They have created a very large oblong base surrounded by what looked like a wire fence. On the far left were ships loading animals. There are ships trying to get fish from the lake. Then there are ships to the right that were surrounded by uniformed personnel and bunched in formation. Small and large ships were flying in and out of the area to and from the large ships in orbit. There were hundreds of temporary structures that looked like square tents but firmer. Thousands of personnel were working on the ground processing the animals, fish and vegetation. Dozens of transport ships were arriving and leaving with the processed provisions. Andrew, there are aliens coming from your left backside. Olive said. Let's stand and meet our hosts. Andrew said. They stood up and nonchalantly watched the scene below. After a few minutes, the Dougies were at the back, weapons pointed at them. Hello. Andrew shouted and waved his hands. The soldiers led them to the base below with their hands tied behind their backs. They were herded to sit on the ground almost at the middle of the base near the military side. After sitting for more than an hour, a Dougie appeared and, hello, my name is Lenora. I am the ship language officer. Who are you and what are you doing at the ridge? Andrew looked at Ellie. We are scientists and our airship went down near the ridge. We are lost and we want to go back to our city to the north. My name is Ellie, this is our team leader Andrew, my fellow scientists Linda, Sarudam, Gantley and Roger. Andrew appeared surprised. You can speak our language? Yes, we study the language of a planet and try to learn it quickly. Sarudam sounds familiar. Lenora said. Andrew started, you are not from this planet and your airships are different from ours. Another Dougie approached them and, this is our leader Mertan. We saw your airship that crashed beside the ridge. Did any one of you get hurt? Mertan asked. Lenore translated for Mertan. Linda answered, we are all fine, thank you for your concern. Lenore translated to Mertan what Linda said. We will only stay in your world for several days. We need to replenish our supplies for the long journey. Mertan said and Lenora translated what Mertan said to Andrew's group. If I may ask, where are you from? Andrew asked. We have traveled from our world for many months now. Our supplies are low and we need to travel twice longer. Andrew added, you left your world for a far place. Why, what happened? Lenore translated for Mertan. Mertan answered, it's a long story and it really is not your concern. I see you do not have weapons. Lenora translated again. Ellie explained, we are a science team. Our world does not have weapons because there are no enemies here. We have no one to need weapons for. I see, so you have not experienced a war? Mertan asked. What is war? Andrew asked. War is a large fight between large groups of armed persons. Lenora explained. Linda added, as my friend said, we have nobody to fight and use weapons on. Mertan looked at the guards, remove their bindings. I don't think they are a threat to us. 3 guards cut their bindings. Stand them up. Mertan told them. The guards did as told but stood a few feet away from the group. Mertan started, you have a nice planet here. Plenty of food and water. Large open spaces. Yes, we do not mess up our world. Ellie said. She was leading her comments and baiting for answers. I hope you will have the sense not to in the future. Lenora commented. Andrew asked, surprised, so I get it that your world got messed up? Lenora was quick to translate. Yes, completely by ourselves. Mertan answered. Well, there are thousands of planets that you can go to. I am sure you have found planets like yours. Linda said. Lenora answered, yes we have and got our supplies from those places as well. Any specific planet that you have in mind to go travel to? Andrew asked. Mertan cared to answer, I guess it would be harmless for you to know. We are traveling towards the place of our ancestors. Originally they are called Dugnogs where we believe are countless planets for us to settle on. Since you have no space travel capabilities you may not be able to understand these things. What if your enemies find you there? Will the Dugnogs help you? Linda asked. Lenora looked at Linda, it's funny that you said the word correctly. No, we have no enemies where we are going. We have left our enemies behind and we are the last of our kind. Mertan commented. Andrew was quick and, the last of your kind. Then you must be very important if you die your species will be forever lost. How many are there of you left? There are 8.8 million of us left in our group. But we believe that there were other groups that left earlier than us. Lenora said. What if you find your ancestors were not the kind of ancestors you were expecting? Ellie asked. What is the point of the question? Lenora asked. Well, you might find them say smaller, less technically advanced than you are and live in conditions that need a lot of improvement. Linda explained. Then we will be happy to help them. We believe that along the many thousands of years, our people have lost some abilities our ancestors have. Mertan said as Lenore was translating. Like? Andrew asked. Mertan answered, we believe their bodies have more regenerative abilities and resistance to diseases. We also believe that an integration of their gene pool with ours will ward off any possibility of infection from those of our world. So you are saving yourselves by integrating with your ancestors? Ellie asked. I cannot imagine that a civilization as advanced as yours can only have 8.8 million people left. Normally, for space-flying people, they would have to have at least several planets occupied, and this would mean billions of people, not millions. Andrew said. Mertan looked at Andrew. You have good imagination for a scientist. I feel sad to say this, but there are people left, but they are all infected by the machines. Millions are in prisons waiting for their turn to be infected. At that time we could not find a cure fast enough. If we find a cure we may go back and try to save our people. But at this point we believe saving our people is next to impossible. Next to impossible is not impossible. Nothing is impossible. Linda said. How can machines infect living tissues? They're machines. Ellie asked. That's the mess up we did. We mixed live tissues with machines. Specifically, we created androids with robot bodies but animal brains. We found a brain that can process like our brain does and connected them to machine bodies. Later on, these brains developed a reaction to the machines and developed an infection in the living tissues held by the androids that was able to be transmitted to our species. It infected some of our scientists at first, and we thought it was a localized infection. We realized that the brains of our scientists were still functioning even if their bodies were slowly decaying. Then when we connected them to our androids, we found that they have retained the same memories they had when they were living. But along the way, after more than 10 years, these brains lost empathy and compassion. The androids basically became mean and self-centered. Unknown to us, they were conniving with each other, and at that time, there were thousands of them already, to infect more and more people so their brains can be transferred to android bodies so there would be more of their kind. Later, they created a lot of machine bodies and they simply killed the people and got their brains. They later found out they do not have to infect people to get their brains. Mertan answered. Lenora added, we believe some in the other planets got wind of these androids and left their planets way ahead of us. But we are the last to leave. When we left, the androids wanted to chase our ships and there was a firefight. Since they are not as adept in combat as our soldiers, all their ships were destroyed. How do you know you are not infected? Ellie asked. Mertan answered, the infection is obvious. You die within a day, except your brain. The tissue part dies except the brain, which dies 2 days later. That's a fascinating story. Sad and unbelievable if you ask me. But I'm with Linda, there is always a cure. Nothing is impossible. Ellie said. I am grateful you are sharing your story with us. And we are not even your kind and our technological level is much lower than yours. Andrew said. Lenora explained, we are a kind and gentle people. 2,000 years ago a great king united all our people and reigned for several hundred years. He put all these institutions for our species to follow. He even came out with so much of the technology we have now. How long did he live? Linda asked. Mertan answered, I think our books say 900 years. Which may not be possible because our people only live up to 200 years. It's not impossible to live 900 years. Did that king have relatives? Did he marry and had kids? Ellie asked. That's another question I do not understand where it is leading to. Lenora said. If you think about it, our books never mentioned any relative. It did not mention any kids or being married. Mertan said. Your questions require specific answers that makes us wonder why you ask them. Lenora observed. The answer was he did not have relatives, did not marry and did not have kids. He must have been smaller, like say this high? Do you have an image of him? Ellie asked. Yes, he was short, probably that high. And a lot of our books carry his image. It seems like you know him already. Lenora said. What was his name? Andrew asked. Sigatonin. Mertan answered. Don't worry, I don't know the guy. How did he die? Andrew asked. He became a hermit. He basically left the kingdom to some mountain and we never saw him again. Mertan said. So you're saying he did not die? Lenora asked. She was assuming that was the point of the question. Ellie answered, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. If you have no proof of his death, it would be possible he is still alive. It is impossible to expect him to be alive after all these years. Mertan exclaimed. How many alien species have you met in your journey? Andrew asked. Mertan looked at Andrew. You are the second. But the first looked like you as well, so you could say we have met only one species thus far. There are others like us out there? Ellie asked as if surprised. Mertan explained, the universe is a big place. There could be more planets out there with your kind. So there could be thousands of alien species. Ellie said. It would be possible. Lenora answered. It must be really exciting to travel the stars and see alien worlds. Linda observed. You seem to be a very smart race. I see you use steam very efficiently. Lenora said. But it would be a long way before we can go off-world. Before we even get to the orbit of our planet. Ellie answered. Do you know where your ancestors are? Andrew asked. I would suppose that you know? Lenora asked. She has this insistent feeling about their questions. No, we don't. Ellie said. It's several months from here, maybe 8 BLY away. It was what our wise king pointed to us as our origin. Mertan said. He could be wrong. Maybe he meant 18 BLY or even 13 BLY. How do you know he's right and you are not in a wild fool's chase? Linda asked. We don't. But we trust our books. Lenora said. And these books has his image and tell you the coordinates? Andrew asked. Mertan answered, yes, we all know how he looks like, and yes, the books tell us the direction and distance. Andrew countered, the universe is a big place, billions of galaxies with billions of planets. It would be like hitting a target this small from the other side of the lake if you do not have exact coordinates. He motioned an O with his fingers. Our ships have the exact coordinates. Lenora said. So if you see him, you would recognize him? Linda asked. So you're saying we would be meeting him? Lenora asked. Strange questions again. She thought. If you met him again, what would you say to him? Andrew asked. I get it, if I conjecture to meet him I would tell him, thank you, Mertan said. Like you would thank a king? Ellie asked. Yes, like I would thank a king. That would be nice. Linda said. It will be getting dark soon. I will have my men fly your group near the edge of your city, but we cannot show ourselves there. You can walk the rest of the way. Mertan said. He waved to a soldier and issued some instructions in their language. Thank you for your time. We hope we can travel the stars like you do in the future. Andrew said. I hope you do so for the right reasons. Mertan answered. Mertan led them to a small ship, and before they got in he stopped and looked at Andrew and his group. It's strange that we did not appear to have surprised you. Your questions were pointed to establish basic information like where we came from, why we are traveling and where are we going and why. The last question is about gratitude and respect, which is really strange. Normally, people would be amazed at technology, but you did not even ask us how our ships fly, how our weapons fire, how fast we go. You simply did not ask any technology questions. While I think it's strange, I feel good that you are more concerned about knowing things about us rather than what we have. Andrew looked at Mertan. For your kindness, sir, we hope you will find your ancestors and that you can find help from among the stars in your quest. Thank you, Andrew. I said your name right? Andrew nodded. Lenore added, and thank you as well to you, Ellie, Linda, Gantley and Sarudam. Your name is really hitting a nerve. What does it mean? It means Light of the King. Sarudam said. Lenore smiled and waved them to go into the ship. Such a strange group with strange questions, very much unlike the ones we met last time. She said to Mertan. For a group of scientists, none of them were carrying any instruments. I don't think they're scientists at all. No scientist will have a name that means Light of the King. All along I had this feeling about them. Lenore answered. Like they know us. Yes, like they know more than we do. The ship flew them at tree-top level to a hill 10 miles south of the edge of the city. They got off and started to walk. When the ship left them they continued to walk for a good 5 minutes before they were beamed back to Andrew's bridge. That was fun. Linda said. They all reverted to their original forms. And I did not even say a word. Gantley said. Olive, what's new? Andrew asked. The hackers confirm what they told you. They come from a galaxy 11.2 BLY away from here and they intend to go to the Dugnogs galaxy, but they have it all wrong. I believe their map points them to the Norset galaxies, which is along the way to the Tosbans then to the Dugnogs. In fact their famous king could have been a Norset. Ellie said. Yes, the name Sigatonan exists in the Norset world as a long and large family line. One of the family members could have been their king. And their king could still be alive. Olive said. Tonan, can you search for the guy if he's still alive? Maybe he's just around. For a guy to create a well-meaning civilization such as the Duggies and improve them socially and physically without them knowing about it is an achievement worthy of recognition. Andrew said. I am ordering my ship right now. He beamed out. It's a small world in a large universe. Gantley said. That's a nice way of putting it. Roger said. Olive, any intel on the androids and the virus? Andrew asked. The hackers confirm what they told you about the androids. What's new is that they have 6 planets and not all the planets were infected. Only 2 were infected. And when the android realized that the virus will kill their target brain before they can safely transfer it to the machine host, they tried hard and eventually succeeded in containing the virus. They basically went on mass production of machine hosts and killed the people when there's a host ready to accept their brain. They created the cure for their own so they can grow their android population. So they are not the last of their population. Linda said. No, they are not. Their other planets believe in this expedition as an option to preserve their species, and they were given the task to look for their ancestors. So there is no longer any threat of a virus because the androids took ways to prevent it from spreading. A peculiar twist of events. Eric said. Why would Mertan tell us or his people that? Ellie asked. They simply want to live more securely. Or maybe that's what their leaders want their people to believe, probably to bind them more together. Andrew said. Ellie exclaimed, anyone for dinner? Suddenly everybody came alive and they promptly walked to the mess hall. It's almost deserted, so they got their plates filled quickly. They sat at the big table with 3 plates each in front of them. I think we should talk to the Dugnogs and tell them what we have here. Maybe they can just come over and meet these guys. Andrew said. It's amazing how a species can appear billions of light years away and grow to a large civilization and now on an exodus to seek their roots. Linda said. I get it, you're a sociologist. You have a doctorate in sociology. This would have been one good thesis. Eric said. Yes, it would have been. Linda agreed. I am fascinated myself how species world can develop and mess up this way. Ellie said. The food in this ship is amazing all the time. You have a mix of so many different foods. I have not tasted the same item twice. Take this meat. I don't know where it came from, but it tastes really good. Sarudam said. That's Chinese teriyaki beef, never mind, just eat. Linda said. She concluded it's really useless to explain unless you want to really explain for a long time. My thing is that these people could get lost and we know they'll end up at the Norset galaxy. They might get frustrated after such a long trip. I am sure the people are in need of good food and the right surroundings. Andrew said. Gantley countered, I think you're too concerned, Andrew. They'll end up just fine. If you want, we can have a probe trail them so we can just leave them be while still monitoring them. We cannot poke our fingers into all the holes we see, sir. Ellie said. Eric added, for the sake of argument, let's say we tell them, hey, your directions are wrong. You should go here. Or we can even ask the Dugnogs to lead them home. Or we can have them go through the hops all the way to the Dugnog galaxy. We help them accomplish what they set out to do. But why? Why do we have to deprive them of their adventure? Why do we deprive them the pleasure of making a mistake and ending up looking at the Norsets in the face? Okay, fine, if you put it that way. I guess we should just leave them alone. Andrew said. It is important though to monitor them, and several probes may do this. I will assign one ship to trail them along their journey. Gantley said. No, just deploy several probes. Andrew said, and Gantley nodded. Gadin suddenly appeared before them. Hi guys, I see you are doing what you enjoy most doing. Gadin greeted them. No, I am not doing what I enjoy most doing, thank you. Andrew answered. Okay, I was ordered by the Federation Council, you know, the group composed of our council heads, to tell you guys to go to the Nittins and fix their issues. Gadin said. See, that's what I enjoy most doing. Andrew exclaimed. But I thought we have decided not to involve ourselves in their affairs? Ellie asked. Gadin explained, apparently the council heads felt the pain of the people suffering and being eaten. Did they tell how we should fix them? Gantley asked. No. But they said that if you can help it, don't make it into a movie. They all laughed. It seems our adventures are either too funny, too crazy, or too unbelievable. Andrew said. Why don't we try the direct approach this time? Let's beam them up, tell them what we want, and tell them if they do not follow we will destroy them. Gantley suggested. I don't know if I would enjoy that. It's not movie material. Andrew said. Whatever we do, it would still be movie material. Even if we use a direct approach, from the looks of it, it could be a comedy movie. Eric said. It makes perfect sense. First we tell them what we believe they should do or change in order to ensure they will not let anybody get eaten, enslaved, and corrupted. We will tell the rich people to redistribute the wealth and the political leaders to serve their people without corruption. We will tell them the Nittins the same thing, and in the meantime interplanetary travel is forbidden, and if we see a ship go out of near-planet orbit, we blow them up. We basically create the institutions and tell them to follow them. Ellie said. Linda added, we give them a deadline and of course they will not follow, so we tag their leaders and beam them out or suspend them in a time box for all of them to see. We can do immuno on their leaders. We will keep doing so until we get both sides to follow. Eric chimed in, yes, and we can get all their interplanetary ships out of their reach. We get all their armaments and weapons. We would get all their people to ensure their equal treatment, and if anybody of them complain, we will be the judge and executioner at the same time. Of course, we would have to show wisdom and compassion, kindness and justice for all and not for a few. Gadden said. Okay, if you all think this way, let's get somebody who is experienced in these matters to help us. Andrew said. Who? Eric asked. The group became quiet, then looked at Andrew. Sigatonen, Andrew said after waiting for some drama. The group thought for a while and Andrew said, maybe this is how fate led us. Sarudam commented, I think that you have a gift, Andrew, to see beyond what we see and relate those we cannot relate. Or he could simply be crazier than the regular guy, sir. Ellie said. Thank you, Ellie. I take it you're talking about my usual self. What if Sigatonen does not agree with the direct approach? Eric asked. Let's see what he says. He's got the experience. Andrew said. I think it's worth a shot. Gantley added.